Good evening and welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Backstage Pass. I am your host, Vince Edwards. You may know me from Sound Image Productions and a couple closed roadie groups we have on Facebook, one called Death by Loadout and another one called The Backstage Pass. Come check us out this evening. And I am lucky enough to have just really one of my dearest friends, one of my closest partners in crime, and an extraordinarily accomplished and ingenious individual, loudspeaker design legend, Bernie Broderick. Bernie Broderick.
I'm Troy McClure. Bernie Broderick was next week.
Troy, it's good to see you.
Thank you very much.
How are you, brother?
I'm pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm really good. We've been busy as hell, as you well know.
Yes.
I know you've been busy. I've been busy. And it's been a little trickier getting the show done and turning out a new show every week, which is kind of the Ides of March, kind of it's been a little. But so I wanted to give a little to our friend. Last week was supposed to be on, but we got caught up in one of our shows. And it was Jim Runge, tour manager extraordinaire, Shakira, everybody really. I mean, his credits are massive and many, and we will schedule him back in August. So sorry about that, Jim, and I appreciate your patience. It took me 2 months to get him booked into this show.
And don't forget the live kids, too.
Well, the live kids?
The kids tuning in from last week?
Well, hi, live kids. Oh, yeah, and some of those folks were here. You know, we got people come from Britain. They're up at 3 in the morning watching this live. Ian Peacock comes to mind, an extraordinary cat and legendary fella. And so I want to thank them, and sorry for any inconvenience in that. This is, we do the shows that pay us first. so you got a rig having trouble in the stadium, so I'm gonna run over to that before I come and sit down and try to do a talk show with my friends.
Help you with your fire burning down show.
Yeah,
but I gotta get makeup. I gotta go to makeup.
So that's what happened there, and we apologize. We were able to run. Who did we run last week? Did we have? It was Susan Rose was the last, I think, live show we did, right?
Yeah, I think so.
She was fantastic. She was a lighting gal, just wonderful, really kind and thoughtful, and really was a credit to her craft, and hardworking. LD, and I was happy to have an LD on the show. We're so audio heavy, and I'd like the show to be more specific to, each show to kind of highlight a different discipline. But we obviously know a lot of audio folks because that's where we roll.
Well, it's not called light image, is it?
No, it's called sound image. But the image happens when the light comes on.
That's right.
So
no image. Without the lights, there's no image.
They kind of go together. It's a thing. So it was lovely to have a lighting professional on. Plus, she was a lovely woman, and we got to kind of briefly talk about some of the issues with females and males in this industry. We're a little male heavy, and I'm always interested if there's something we can be doing to encourage more females to come to the floor.
Yeah, be cool, don't be an asshole.
Yeah, I think that is be a good hang, ditch the whole gender thing, and if a person can do the work.
I've never thought anything otherwise. I guess I was just lucky through my career that I seem to always have females on the crew, whether they were producers or lighting technicians or something. Not so much in audio, but certainly in lighting and theatrical stuff that I was working on.
Sure.
I've always worked around females. I mean, the whole thing about the female problems in our industry never really surfaced on me until maybe 5-6 years ago, where social media really started illuminating some of these things. Before that, I was pretty oblivious or ignorant to the whole thing. So, I mean, it's just one of those deals where we can all do this job.
Well, there are some physical limitations sometimes, but for the most part, I haven't seen that be the issue.
Yeah, no, neither have I.
The issue, I think, sometimes can be, particularly on a large crew, can be a little bit of a bias, a little bit of a prejudice, maybe even something that I just displayed unconsciously, where I said, well, there can be a little, but when you're flying motors and you're pushing up one of the gnarliest, heaviest rigs in the game, but also one of the best rigs in the game. It's not necessarily for everybody to be loading it and stacking it at the same time. There's always a way. There's always a way, and so I will tell you this from my experience, and you might be able to second me on this, as it relates to a trainable, supervisable human being, I've had much better luck with females. They hear better. They follow instruction better. They're easier to supervise. They take initiative. Their eye for detail is different. So I have noticed these subtle differences. I don't know if it's, again, another bias I've picked up along the way, but it seems to be the case. I think scientifically, the hearing thing is actually real. That's a scientific fact. And I have seen some of this. I'm not sure that we're always an inviting environment that it says this is a safe place. Come and work with us. Come and do this together, regardless of gender and those types of restrictions. So I'm just interested in being in the position I'm in. Of what is there that we could do to make that, to smooth that over, so we can get a better balance of folks in there.
Yeah. I mean, again, I reiterate, if you just do your job. If everybody just does their job, and I mean, I've been on hundreds, if not thousands, of show sites. I've seen women in the roles of stage hands. I've seen women in the roles of riggers, lighting technicians, you name it. And whenever it doesn't really matter, male or female. If I'm in the area where something heavy is being moved or chain motors are coming in, I'm keeping an eye on things. And if it's females or males, it doesn't make any difference. It's like, if you need help, I'm there. I'm going to step in, and I'm going to make sure nobody gets injured or hurt.
Yeah.
I would never, down you by, sweetie, do you need some help or something? You know what I mean? It's like, no, this is your job. This is what you came in to do. I'm going to stand by and watch as if you were a male or a female. It doesn't really matter. And again, I guess I was privileged in the fact that as I came up through the industry, I always worked with a lot of females. So I never really, copped an attitude one way or the other, I guess. And, I feel fortunate for that.
Good. Well, again, always trying my best to understand better the best ways to proceed in a thing like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Just want to be successful.
So this illumination for me has actually made me watch other people. I'm not worried about the females on a show site. I'm watching how other people are treating the females.
Yeah.
That's what I'm keeping an eye. That's what this has done to me. Is it's made me a little bit more sensitive to see how other people behave. Are they checking her out, or are they talking behind her back or something, or and this kind of stuff. That's where I've become more sensitive, but not to the females themselves.
Well, let's hope that we're all acting like we're in 2022 and we can be like civilized human beings that are, not just an assortment of hormones and stupidity.
The family that, as an entertainment industry, we all claim to be, the inclusiveness of everybody. We all make these gears turn. So there you go.
There's room for all of us.
Yeah.
It's a big inclusive pie.
It's a big
pool of wonderfulness. What are you up to lately, bub?
Getting ready for going down to NAMM. Going to head down to the NAMM show, and show my support by wearing an LDI shirt.
You're going to be there multiple days. You're going to have to wear something from my swag box.
Oh yeah. I'll bring some stuff down with me. Yeah. But NAMM's coming up. We don't have a booth or anything. This is my first trade show attending since the beginning of the pandemic. So
are you doing the shootout?
No, I don't even know if that's happening. I mean, I don't really know what the dealio is. I never heard from anybody, but it's okay because I've got numerous people to see when I go down there anyway, doing that kind of visiting, bringing some prototype things with me and stuff like that I've been working on. Do a little back room, cloak and dagger stuff with some people.
Well, for those who don't know, Bernie historically would do the speaker shootout, the kind of linery challenge.
The MC.
And he'd MC that, and he has this incredible ability to stay neutral while speaking professionally about each individual exhibit, and walking a very fine line that doesn't seem or appear to favor one or the other.
I think it freaked a lot of, because I did it like, I don't know, three years in a row or something like that. Is what I was up to.
Yeah.
And I think the first time I did it, the vendors were freaked out because I had worked for EAW, I had worked for L Acoustics, I'd worked for Adamson.
Yeah.
And I think that they thought that because I had this kind of background with these brands, that there was going to be some favoritism that was going to happen, and I was going to steer people, or I would discount their technology because it wasn't the latest and greatest, something, because I had just come off the back of Anya.
Yeah.
And, it's like, oh, well, this guy's going to poo-poo all our shit because, we don't have the whiz-bang stuff, right?
Right.
And nothing could be further from the truth. And as a matter of fact, what I was doing was paying very particular close attention to the merits of each person's stuff. And it didn't necessarily have to be sound, because you can easily just walk around an entire room. There's like 10 rigs or something.
Yeah.
And you could just say, it sounds amazing, sounds amazing, sounds amazing.
Yeah,
well, I think that just turns into white noise.
Yeah.
So I would pick out certain things, key elements of each person's design, and that's the way I did it. So there was no judgment, because I was only highlighting things that I thought were really
something
compelling.
about the construction of the box, or
Right.
something special with the waveguides,
Exactly.
or on and
so
on.
this kind of a
Sure.
deeper dive into the engineering aspects of what it took to make the
Which
damn
is why you were perfect for that.
Right, and so the second year I went back and did it, and it was like, you know, they're asking me to come back and do it again, and it's like, I just got off the phone. Everybody can't wait for you to do it again. You know, like they're all super happy, and they're just really glad you're coming back, and blah blah blah. So that's been a really rewarding thing, because I try to stay neutral in everything I do. You know,
When Dave Ron calls up and says, "Oh, Bernie killed it," you know, and you're getting reports from different folks. Sarah Elliott was just in here from Adamson yesterday, you know, and to be able to keep all those different divergent folks on the same page, where they're like, Bernie's got our back. He's not, you know, leaning or steering it one way or another.
No.
Which is interesting, because also, you know, you make, you made these.
Yeah.
You made these little bits.
I made more than those.
I know you've made some extraordinary speakers in your own right, under Truth and Audio, under your own company.
No, I mean, I made more copies of these than just those.
I know. Didn't you sell 6 to Dirk Schubert?
I sold more than that to Dirk.
Yeah, I mean, that should be right there. That's a testimony right there. Dirk's buying his speakers, you know, or Greg Price bought some. I bought some.
Yeah.
That should tell you that we kind of know what things are supposed to sound like, and if we're buying them, that's a pretty strong indicator that you could probably, you know, jump in with both feet, and you're going to be fine. The water's nice.
The water's gonna be fine.
Yeah. So, you know, but it goes without saying, you know, Rick Allen reached out for something that he's doing. He's down at the Whiskey tonight. Rick Allen and Def Leppard are playing the Whiskey tonight.
Fantastic.
What the hell is that?
Fantastic.
He's like, are you busy this weekend? And I was like, yeah, but shouldn't you finish up that little teeny stage thing you're doing at the Whiskey and and get a hold of me, and we'll have coffee.
Yeah.
It's just weird. Just, you know, before they go out and blast off and do the Motley Crue and the Def Leppard, Joan Jett, Poison thing, which is going to be massive.
It's going to be massive, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's just exciting to, you know, a band kind of getting back to the roots, getting out there and then playing through their list, you know, and fucking with it a little
Boy,
bit.
still got it, man.
Yeah, you know, to their credit, for a band that's been doing it for over 40 years, they're pretty strong.
Still got it. They got that. They got that Rolling Stones thing going on. You know, they're they got it. They're a team.
Yeah. Not that different than Aerosmith. I'd say more Aerosmith.
More Aerosmith.
You know, the different buses and different. Yeah. Let's not go into detail, but yeah.
Didn't they have to cancel? Didn't they cancel some stuff because of
who, Aerosmith or
Tyler has had to go to the hospital or something?
Oh shit! You know, I haven't had my ear that close to the ground. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. These are folks of a certain age, and that's part of the game. You know, I in the last month I had a little weird health scare myself, and I'm 20 years younger. You know, so these things just happen, and it's part of the mix. And you know, the funny thing that I've noticed, having worked for Aerosmith, these guys are like a cat. They land on their feet, man. They just keep landing on their feet. Do not count them out. Never count them out. Okay, they need to be in a box to count, to say, okay, it's done.
Yeah.
Because they're not going down without a fight, and they got the catalog to rock that and make it happen. You know,
forever.
Yeah. So you know, you can go to an Aerosmith show and hear 2 hours of songs you can sing everywhere too, and that's a hard thing to put together. So.
And they still put it down too.
Yeah, they bring a pretty good show, and I think it's helped. You know, that they're doing it a little differently now. So. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Listen, I got an amazing guest this evening. We got very, very lucky. I don't know how we keep pulling it off, but we got really a superstar in the industry, and so I want to get to him. But I thank you for being here, Bern. You know, I did a couple of these solo, and I can do them in my sleep, but I'd much prefer to do it across from you or Kyle, our other co-host, our other co-host.
Yeah, no, I watch those. You can't do it without me. Or Kyle. You just, you know, I don't know what other people have told
I'm about
you.
to prove it, Bern. I'm about to ignore you for 40 minutes.
I'm going to turn my back. What is it? What is he said to Amber? You're never going to see these eyes again?
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a mem in there somewhere.
Right.
Never see these eyes again.
All right, man. So for the lack of a smooth transition, come over here now. Thank you, Bern. It's really a pleasure to have you, my friend.
Thanks, brother.
All right, guys, we have an absolute treat for you. There's not many, in this business, there's a small circle of folks that have, really laid down the tracks, that cut the path, took out the machete and cut the way through to how we get things done. There's a very specific way that, large productions go on and critical key people in those productions. And there's only a few of us that have been able to make an extraordinary career over 40 plus years. Let me give you an example. 14 gold albums. 26 platinum albums, 6 Ampex Golden Reel Awards. This guy is easily one of the most sought-after top engineers in the world. It is such a huge treat for us. He's worked with everybody from Julio Iglesias to Dolly Parton, Michael Bolton currently, Pat Benatar. One of my favorite live acts is Pat Benatar and her crazy husband who can do anything. The list is too long. It just goes on and on of incredible REM, Papal Mass, Pope Benedict. You ever put a microphone on a pope? It's a special thing. Been involved with countless recordings from John Lennon to Three Dog Night, Kiss, Randy Travis, Stevie Wonder. If you know anything about music, Songs in the Key of Life is one of the best albums ever mixed and produced. Simple as that. Some people might make the argument that Pet Sounds comes close. I would make the argument that it's too close to call, and I would never want to. Those are literally two of the best albums ever made. This gentleman that we have on this evening goes, how many people in this business can go by a single name? You got Pooch, you got Tater, Hutch, and Howie.
Yeah.
Our dear Howie.
Well, he's the OG.
He comes before all those heads. I gotta say that is a simple fact.
Totally.
Help me welcome the wonderful, the enduring, the incredible Howie Lindeman. How you doing, my brother?
Well,
It is such a treat having you.
Nice to be here. Thank you so super duper much.
How I really I know you've been busy with Michael Bolton. I know you keep yourself going. It's just such a treat to have you here, my brother. Your history,
Thank you.
The things that you've done are extraordinary. You've really put your stamp on rock and roll and on the music industry as it stands. Help my friends that are watching. We got a lot of old school pros watching, but we got a lot of young people trying to figure out how to make it to a place to have a career like you. Tell us how you got into the industry, my brother.
It's interesting. I'm gonna rewind the tape for a second because of something you said that is still very, very dear to my heart in regard to when you said you only have to say Howie.
That's right.
And yeah, the industry knows me as Howie. Most people don't even know me as Howard. But if we want to go way back to one of my earliest scared to death meeting clients, which was John Lennon, when I first got into the industry at the record plant, when we went through, because I was lucky enough to work with Roy Cicala and Jimmy Shoes, Jimmy Iovine, and all of the heavies and the guys at the record plant from Jack Douglas to Jay Messina and on, I worked under. And when we were doing the Walls and Bridges album, and it came to completion, I remember grabbing it because I was so excited and thrilled to death to be involved. But I remember looking on the back in the credits, and all the credits were there. And I came to me and it said, Howie. Didn't say Howie Lindeman, it just said Howie. And I looked at John and I went, did you forget my last name or something? And he looked at me dead in the eyes and he went, there's only one Howie.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's so
and
good.
So it was like, now that you say that and that kind of thing comes to fruition, I always roll back to that because it was a magical period of time being able to work with him, hang with him, and just know him right up into his death. And that's something that never, ever goes away. And it stays in my heart every single day.
Was this, I wasn't going to ask, but, I imagine it must. And this is John Lennon we're talking about. You had a personal relationship with him. Right. And what was it like the day you heard that he had been taken from us?
I was on my way to Australia with Roberta Flack and got off the plane and heard that John had been murdered. And there was the no emotion because I didn't believe what I heard.
Yes.
and still don't want to, and even took it to the mayor in New York at the time. And I said, why can't we take another signage on 72nd Street in Central Park and call it John Lennon Way? And the reaction from the mayor was, well, he's not a political person. And I went, I don't give a shit. It's John Lennon.
That's right.
And they didn't want to hear it. And I said, there's street names all over New York City. They're not politicians.
That's correct.
And they wouldn't do it. And that hurts.
Yeah.
I thought they eventually came up with a little area they named Strawberry Fields, and then they did the Imagine Circle. I could be wrong.
In the park, in Central Park.
Yeah, right. So there, I think the amount. I think you're talking about Ed Koch, most likely. Was that Koch at the time?
Exactly. Right.
I think it was Eddie Koch. Yeah, and he was a political animal. And I could see that would be his answer, but I think he completely understood or absorbed the fact that millions and millions of people were hurting in that moment, and that this guy's influence and his reach was that strong that this would politically actually benefit him, let alone it would be a very worthy tribute to an extraordinary individual.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will never forget it, and he will never leave my heart.
Yeah, no, that's a very sweet story. I forgot to mention that you have 6 Grammys. Now, that's not something that should be forgotten. That's 6 Grammys, buddy. Only 6, but he's got 6. 26.
As my mama used to say, yeah, they don't pay the rent.
Yeah, you know.
Have you tried eBay?
That is such a mama statement.
Absolutely.
I think you actually own your Grammy, whereas it was Oscars. You can't sell your Oscar.
Oh, you can't?
You get in trouble for that. Yeah, they own the Oscar forever. You can have it, but they own it. It's a crazy thing. It's super crazy.
Yep.
Of your 6 Grammys, your 26 platinum albums, and your 14 gold out records. What's the one? I mentioned a couple in here, and I know one that jumps out at me. It really jumps out at me. It's just right in my face. But what was a moment that really stood out for you as a musical? These are extraordinary achievements. 6 Grammys, 26 platinum albums.
I guess when I look back and I look at it this way, I got these awards. Let's use that word.
Yeah.
They were gifts. I didn't work for them. I didn't work on a record, whether it be as an assistant or as an engineer, as a producer, looking for that pinnacle moment. Yeah. These were given to me because other folks said what we all do turned out great. So they're kind of saying, here's a visual gift for what you gave us. And I never in my life found myself going, I got to make this record platinum, or I've got to get a Grammy for this.
Sure.
I just did my gig and went home and ate some corn or something.
No, I appreciate
what
that.
a great perspective on it.
It's a very humble, and I'm surprised by that answer at all. But, okay, let me phrase it another way.
Yeah.
During your vast recording career and interaction with some bands in their pivotal points of their careers, when you were doing it, let's say when you were recording with Stevie at the record plant. Now, this is an album that is largely considered literally one of the best production meets artist accomplishment.
And when we worked with Stevie, that was Hit Factory.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's like a pinnacle of recording technology and the skill that was what you brought to the table. And Stevie coming refreshed and renewed after I believe he was going to bail the country, and he was considering leaving, and and then he turns up with the world's biggest record contract at the time, and then comes out the pike with Songs in the Keys of Life. I mean,
he was as a human being, he was magical. As a human being, he was genuine. As a guy, he was genuine and real easy to deal with, knew what he wanted, but also experimented with what he wanted and how to get it. But one of the things that I noticed, and because during the day it was John Fishback and Gary Olazabal doing all of the heavy-duty engineering at that time, and Dave Henson and I were assisting on it, and Ted Spencer assisted on some of it also. But one thing that Stevie did that I'll never forget, outside of block booking the room, which was the way to do it in those days, Stevie would sometimes go, I'll be in at 7, give or take, and sometimes show up at 1 a.m. or whenever he did, because it was our room 24/7.
Right.
But one of the things that he did, which I guess is magical because you don't get to do that now, he would come in and hang out.
Yeah.
And the reason I say hang out is his attitude was, let's see where the mood is before we record.
Match
Why
energies
be in
kind
a
of thing.
kind of mood and record that? Because that's what you're going to play back.
Yeah.
So when the mood is great and the vibe is great and you record, that's what's going to come back at you.
So true.
And so he would feel the mood in the room and then go, let's go record, or let's go finish up a vocal. And it was that kind of magical thing that Steveland did. And he always used to call me Howie. Where he got it, I don't know, but it was just amazing. And one night he flipped the living heck out of all of us because Ronnie Spector came in to say hi. And she was wearing an amazing red dress.
I bet she was.
And
Yeah.
Stevie turned and went, Ronnie, you look freaking great in red.
Hey, there you go.
And we were like, okay,
How did
we
he pull
got to
that
hide the drugs and everything.
The boss can see.
It was crazy.
I
It was
actually
crazy.
had somebody question me because we've worked with Stevie on numerous occasions, you know, and I forget who it was a while back, but somebody on this very show tried to take me to task that was Stevie Wonder in fact blind.
Right.
And I said, well, you know, he'll trick you up sometimes and you'll think he isn't, but yes, he absolutely is. He's just extraordinarily high-functioning, intuitive. The guy
Extremely
can feel
so.
a room. He can understand. There's something, I've seen him, and Ray Charles do it too, this thing he does when he greets people. He greets them by the wrist and does this thing.
Right.
And he kind of sums you up in that moment. And he's,
Exactly.
particularly with women, he'll double shake their hand. It's a very interesting thing. And it's just the way that he's found to navigate life that works for him. And weird
It's
little
like it goes, if we want to look at that magical thing when we use the word sight, is it when you feel somebody looking at you from across the room or from across a large area, you're not looking at, you're feeling them.
Yeah.
And you feel them looking at you and you look back and you go eye to eye, even if it's 100 yards away.
That's true.
So we kind of go, is it pure sight or is it feeling also?
Interpreting feeling, that becomes
Yes,
a sense of sight.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No,
So who knows?
That's a strong suit for him. I think that's why he is so can be in the world in such a full and complete way, and his lyrics, and the way that he plays music, and the way that he deals with his crew, and his way that he deals with people, his admiration for his audience. Nothing seems to be not complete with that man. He is correct. He is, Mikey hates it when I say this, but to me, he is an absolute national treasure. I mean, you got it. It's just Stevie Wonder. There's only one.
He's genuine.
Yeah, exactly. And this guy has been basically successful since he was known in the black and white days as Little Stevie Wonder.
Little Stevie.
This guy has been killing it for well past my experience on the planet.
He doesn't even know how not to be successful.
He doesn't know how not to be an extraordinary natural badass.
How does that how do you wake up like that in the morning?
It just oozes it out. It's just his being. All right. We're getting stuck. So, and he's dealt, the cool thing with Howie is that he's dealt with a lot of these at critical times in these folks' career, all the way till now. So with that said, I'm gonna I have no choice but to ask you. Yeah. Blondie, 1976, 77. This is formational Blondie. This is Blondie. This is pre, Heart of Glass and all. This is almost punk rock Blondie, like Telephone Blondie.
And that was back in the parallel lines.
Parallel lines. It was a little pre-parallel lines, right? I don't think it was out yet at that point. And talk to us about working with Blondie, early days Blondie.
I think about it a lot, and I have the photograph on the wall over there when we did UK, and I look back because that was a period of time that, as the social structure goes, I wasn't really involved in the punk thing. But I got booked through management to do their UK tour and part of Europe, which ended up being a blast. And it was crazy days, but it was pure rock and roll because it wasn't loaded with effects. No. It wasn't loaded with super duper LDs. it was the band on stage rocking out
Stripped
in
down. Yeah.
Dunstable and the Roundhouse and places like that.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that would go down, whether it be in the audience or not, from freaking people losing their minds, the band losing their minds,
Yeah.
and people getting stabbed.
Well,
And
it was a different time.
It was totally berserk. And I remember coming home going, I'm still alive. and it was deep. But I look back and I talked to Destry and it's like, those were the days that shit really broke loose.
Oh, no two ways about it. I found it fascinating because a lot of people didn't have. I've been lucky enough to deal with modern Blondie, and she's lovely, and their band is a very proficient, very professional band.
Right.
But what you got to deal with was Blondie as a real band, as a
real band,
as a band that it was a natural. Like James Honeyman Scott, their guitarist,
correct.
He passed away right around 80 from a heroin overdose. But they were really on the edge. They really, for being a New York kind of rocky band, they kind of almost incidentally or accidentally fit, like Talking Heads, fit into this punk world, which is not the punk that we think of here in America. This is
correct.
This is earlier. This is Sushi and the Banshees like level stuff. This is it's just a different sound. It kind of, I would call that 76 to 80, and it was a very specific moment in there. And she was able to bridge the gap, which is a very hard thing to do, with the Parallel Lines album, and then did that little disco song where I think she was one of the first white artists to kind of nod towards rap music, which was I don't think even sufficient.
And that was way after me.
Yeah.
As in Rapture went, because I was in the earlier days, and once I got a handle on it, it became a joy to mix when I understood what I was mixing.
Sure.
And I had a ball, and I think about it, and I missed them all a whole bunch, but time rolls on, no matter how you look at it.
Onwards and upwards, there's always another artist. When I think of you, I think of as a badass top engineer. I think of as a guy that makes pretty birds, white little birds, fly out of speakers. When you're doing your magic, that's what I think of you. But I know you mentioned this a minute ago, I know you've been involved with consulting, production work, producing, engineering, many levels of many things. So I wanted to ask you about the production side of your work. I know on the production side that you've worked with Kiss, Foreigner, Stevie. Do you have a preference? Do you prefer studio, live, to be a production guy, to be a band consultant?
All right, I'll roll that tape back for you and how it worked. And lucky enough, I was one of those guys to make that double transition, because you don't find very many studio guys doing front of house, and you don't find very many guys doing front of house doing studio. But going way back, before I even, and it's funny, before I even got into the business and hanging out at the Fillmore East, I remember so many times saying to myself, whether it was seeing Janice or whoever, I'd always kind of go home going, how come it doesn't sound like the record?
Yeah.
And that was long before I even got into the business, because that was in the mid-'60s.
Yeah.
And when I started working a lot between Record Plant and Hit Factory and got brought on with Roberta Flack,
amazing artist,
one day Roberta said to me, can you come on the road? I want you to make my show sound like the record we just did.
Wow.
And I went, sure. And I had no idea what I was getting into, but even till this day, and I just had the conversation with somebody the other day while I was doing a Michael Bolton show in Detroit. I treat my stage the same way I do as a studio mix. The only difference is there's an audience, but I treat it the same way. Microphone choices when I can, positioning. I don't look and go, oh, gee, the guitar player is on stage left, so he's got to be in house right. No, I mix it like a record, because I want the audience to go home hearing the record of the band they just saw.
Yeah.
And so I go all the way back to Roberta Flack giving me that, oh, yeah, let's go on the road. And it just blossomed. And as the industry changed, I then had some place to fall back on that I didn't know I needed to fall back on as the studios closed down
Yeah.
and we transitioned into the digital world. Front of house became the main income.
Yeah.
My choice to this day is I love being in the studio because I'm able to do the concentration factor.
Sure.
I'm able to do the finite, even if it's digital or not, it doesn't matter. I get to climb inside something and make it what I call, I like to make my ears smile.
That's a very, I like his ears smile. That's good. That's a good one. No, I get it. The control is so different. You know, you give so much away at a live show. And I was watching a thing with Billie Eilish yesterday. Don't know much about the gal, but she's extraordinarily, accomplished and big shows. After Drew Thornton's taking care of her. And so I was watching this thing, and her latest song consists of 86 cuts, 86 edits that total the whole song. And, I was watching this and thinking, well, first of all, that seemed excessive, but if that's what it took to make a hit song.
But let's take that. Exactly. And I watched the same one.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I go, it was with Letterman, right?
That's right.
And I kind of sat and I shook my head and I went, no.
Seemed crazy a little bit.
I said, that was nothing. Because when I was working with Joe Furla with Roberta Flack, to give you an idea, there was a song that Stuart Scharf wrote called Disguises.
Oh, I think I'm familiar.
And the word disguises came from 3 different tracks. So when we would edit on analog and literally taping fader positions so we couldn't go past and throwing faders to make those edits.
Yeah.
Because it was analog, 24 track or 48. We were literally compositing vocals of hundreds of takes to make a vocal performance. And it got really, really insane, but it worked. So when I heard this whole thing the other night, that was in the digital domain.
Yeah, they're just
you could edit your brains out, but this was all fader throwing, making these edits.
Yeah,
lightweight.
The kids have no idea how hard the struggle was.
He said lightweights.
It's like 87 amateurs.
And so when it comes to vocal compositing, that's the world that came from those analog days.
It's crazy.
I also learned so much from some of the old timers at RCA when I became an RCA union engineer.
Yeah.
And some of the old timers had stuff that they would do that I carry on to this day. There was not to go long on you, but to show you some of the amazing shit. There was a guy named Bob Simpson who was one of the
he was
old
Sinatra's guy, wasn't he? One of Sinatra's guys?
Yeah. But he would then one day we're checking and looking for clicks and pops. And he would then rock the machine and he'd find a click, and you could basically see the lines on the tape from the head behind it. And he would find a click and he would mark it with a grease pencil and find another click and mark it with a grease pencil. And then all of a sudden what he did was phenomenal, because there was no punching in and spot erasing in those days.
No.
He said, thanks to the Long Island Railroad, and he would bring out of his pocket a ticket punch.
Oh, that's perfect.
And he would pull the tape away from the head and pop a hole where the grease mark was.
No kidding.
And now the tape moving in those days at 15 IPS, you'd play it. You wouldn't hear the hole, but the pop and the click would be gone.
Right.
Dude.
Fantastic.
And then, that kind of shit is what engineering was. And I still use that word because, there's people that build bridges. We build music.
That's right.
Engineering is engineering. But then the man did something that still to this day makes my butt squeeze, because he would never fade his mixes. And I'm like,
what did he do?
You going to fade in mastering, or what do you? Oh, no. I'm like, well, what are you going to do? He says, well, I fade all my fades, and I'm going to back up and show you. He said, all my fades are this long. And he would stretch his arms out all the way. And I'm like, what the god dang are you talking about?
That much tape.
And then what he would do was he would take the 1/4 inch tape and lay it on the elbow pad of the console, oxide up. Take a razor blade as if you're sharpening on a leather,
Yeah.
and he would go the length of his arms and increase pressure, put it back on the tape machine. There'd be no noise in the tape fade because you're scraping the back off. And all his fades were the same length and dead quiet.
Wow.
Right.
That's fucking genius.
That is genius.
It's fucking
the actual
genius.
media has been
but
removed from the fucking tape.
I got the big hair on the. That is. I love
right.
that. I love that.
All that kind of shit
Yeah.
goes back to the school that I came from, and now in this digital world, and I still tell stories about we'd put a microphone on the bottom of an elevator and a speaker down in the bottom of the shaft, and we would change our decay times by making the elevator go up or down. And it was like, that's what we had to do.
My producer is laughing his ass off right now because he's big on the analog techniques, and we love this. This is brilliant.
That's the same thing. And I tell kids, like when I would do classes at Full Sail, and I go, you guys punch a button on a black box that says tiled room. Tell me where you think that came from.
Yeah.
I go, we use bathrooms, and we put a speaker and a mic in there, and that's a tiled room.
Right.
And they're like, oh, no shit, that's where it comes from. It's like, break it down to where it is and listen to what you're doing before it goes to tape to make it right. And nowadays, you know, and I've said to kids that I've done seminars with, do you even get out of the chair to go listen to the band in the room?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so there's so much that wasn't taught or hasn't been taught to the new guys that they're missing out on and how to make a record.
I couldn't agree more.
I think the mentorship is missing. You know, I think that you know I'm learning so much here right now just listening to this conversation, and immediately what I'm recognizing in the stories you've told and what you're saying now is that there needs to be more mentorship. There needs to be more one-on-one guidance from folks like yourself to other people to say, this is how we used to do it.
Yeah.
You know? That's how we used to do it. Do you know Manhattan well and the streets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Over on the east side, and this was record plant truck for one sound. I think it was 40-something street to 30-something street on the east side, that long tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
One snare hit, and we wanted to record that kind of decay for a snare drum. Rented record plant truck, snare in the tunnel, mics throughout the whole tunnel, had the city stop traffic and go crack. Wow. And it had to be like 13, 14 seconds. And it was magic. But we'd go to those extents because there was no digital, let's just plug it in.
Right.
You had to make it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Huge difference.
Well, yeah, all of those things that they find in these plugins, and like you said, all these tools, all of these tricks, all of these fantastic things. The majority
they're
of them
emulating
came
the
from
tricks.
real world.
They're emulating the tricks.
Real world things.
And some do it better than others. That's the difference.
And some do it better than others.
That's
exactly.
Right. You know, some of the Neve plugins, or some of them are really. Pooch just puts a plug-in to an SSL board. You know, the Pooch plugin.
Pooch in.
I said to somebody.
I'm not kidding. And it's a great hand up if you're going for that big guitar sound, Sure.
I said to a producer the other night, we were talking about a big band record that was done, and one of the problems that he had, and I still to this day, whether it be my drum kit or an instrument, a lot of the time, what I'll do is I'll mic my own room in stereo and play the instrument or the drums back and get the sound of the room I'm in and record that and mix it in with the actual instrument. Oh, wow. So now I have a real room sound that I was sitting in, and I mic my own room in stereo.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I could see why you would do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's so cool.
I would linger here and tips of analog recording and stuff that you play off. I could
That's a 2-hour special
He's
is
got me
what
a
we're
little
talking about.
speechless, and that
Yeah.
doesn't really happen because I love this. This is the heart of why I do this. But you've done too many wonderful things. And
All right, so what I'll do is I'll give you one to get you speechless,
Okay,
and then we'll move on.
Hit me hard.
Because this one will make your hair stand up because it worked. She got credit, and it's freaking out. There was a band out of Canada.
Yeah.
And I think the band was Crowbar from way back. And thinking about a percussion part, but drum part or whatever. And it was back and forth to do something special. And all of a sudden the drummer goes, I got an idea. So, okay, great. What are we going to do? He says, I need a long, thin microphone. And we're like, okay. And go out to the studio, and all of a sudden his lady gets naked. She then lays down on the piano bench. He then says, we need saran wrap or something to cover up this microphone. I said, okay. Search and covered the microphone up, and he inserted it in her and played percussion on her rib cage. And it was freaking magic.
That part, I didn't expect that part.
Those fucking Canadians.
Yeah, he said it was freaking magic. That's crazy, Howie.
And what was cool is she got credit on the
That's all I
record.
got to say.
Yeah,
And on the record it said internal percussion by, and it was magic because where else the hell are you going to hear that kind of shit?
nowhere else.
It'll be this weekend, actually.
Metallica, Bottle Rock, be there.
Right.
I'm calling up Greg Price and telling him he's like right up the way he's doing this big show. So, Greg, have you considered?
You may have just started the slim microphone challenge on YouTube or something.
I'll hand him an 81 and say, Greg, I've got and some saran wrap.
Yeah. Saran wrap.
Greg, I've got an idea.
A shotgun mic. Yeah.
You can imagine what we looked like in the control room watching.
Oh yeah, that must have been that's next
Very
level.
high.
That's some next level shit. I've seen some funny shit through the glass in the recording studio. Definitely, drug use and some naughty behavior, but not that.
Right.
Not that. Honey, I love you very much. Howie said that.
Tears coming out my
Don't
eyes.
get me in trouble, buddy. So, well, as segues go, you're going to love this. You're going to love this.
Okay.
Total natural segue. So tell us about miking up the Pope.
That was
With saran wrap.
what's crazy about that in general. Again, the fast forward and rewinding the tape prior to doing the Pope.
Yeah.
I basically, how's the easiest way to say it? I died, literally.
Like a
My heart
medical
was
event.
operating. My heart was operating at about 4%.
Whoa.
And I was in the operating room in Florida, and the doctors are talking in the corner to do a segue about, but not the Pope, but about the Pope, to show you how magical things can get. And doctors are arguing, and I kept looking at the table with all the tools from Home Depot getting ready to cut me open. And my doctor, which I didn't know what he was involved in, came back to me and said, listen, I have a car I want to sell you. They have a car they want to sell you. Whose car do you want? And since I kind of knew him by the moment, I simply said, you. And he goes, okay, great. Long story short, I then found out he was one of the leading scientists in adult stem cell therapy.
Mm.
He then flew me down to his place in Dominican Republic and rebuilt me with my own stem cells.
No shit.
Now we transition to the Pope. From being in that condition where I was literally dying, 5 days after my procedure, and you can see it, it's on the net. 5 days after my procedure, I did that Pope tour.
No kidding.
From being that sick. And the magic of doing the Pope at Shea Stadium. And
Huge.
I had really no real choice of microphone choice because the Vatican says, here's what this is. And then it was Clare Brothers. And Clare Brothers, the support that they did for something as immense and as important as that spoken moment, plus all the music we did pre-show,
Right.
it was magic. It was one of those other kind of highlights in my career, because that was definitely not a talking heads kind of corporate gig.
No. That's about as big as he gets.
Yeah.
You know, the
As
only
big
thing
as
I
he
could
gets.
compare it to is doing the presidents. You know, and I'm
Right.
But the Pope is kind of big daddy of it all, if you think about it. And
Yep.
he was kind of an interesting Pope. That was Benedict, I believe.
Yes, it was. Right.
But you know, it's the Pope, man. I remember when the Pope came to Laguna.
He called me back, and at Yankee Stadium. Was it Yankee Stadium? It was either Yankee or Shea Stadium. All of a sudden, I got called back, and there I am walking through the back rooms and back hallways with Vatican security, and they brought me into the Pope.
Okay.
And there's this man sitting there, and now I'm standing 3 feet from the Pope.
The Vicar of God.
It was crazy.
Vicar of the Lord. That's right.
All of a sudden, he goes, I know what you've done to your heart, and I want to bless it directly.
Wow.
And it was like
heavy.
It's super duper heavy when you get into that whole other spiritual shit.
Yeah.
And then shit, we did the show.
That's amazing.
And then for some reason, the Grammys just started happening. One after another, after another, after
the
another.
parade of awards.
It just was relentless.
And I'm not drawing a direct line, but
No connection for sure.
very.
And to take it back to where Vince was moments and minutes and whatever period of time ago, and like we said when we were talking earlier, and in the different commentary, Vince I could talk about this shit for hours.
Yes.
I never planned to get into this industry. I never even planned it. I was studying oceanographic veterinary science, and that's what my life was, underwater and being in the ocean. And when I got drafted, and I always make this joke to people, some people like it, some people don't, but this is the truth. When people said, oh, did you serve during Vietnam? I go, yeah, I was stationed in Canada. And hint, hint. And, and I went to Canada, and I was in Canada for 4 years. And when Nixon gave amnesty that we could come back without going to jail, I needed a job. Very simple fact. And I saw an ad in the New York Times, and my rent was $135 a month in Greenwich Village, and I needed a job. And it said, music, messenger. And I went, well, shit, I know music, and I know what a messenger is.
Yeah.
And it was for the West Farrell organization. I didn't know who West was.
Yeah.
I go down to 3 East 54th Street, which was the Gucci building.
Yeah.
I borrowed a pair of pants from my next door neighbor, Jennifer O'Neill, that didn't fit, and I had to tie them shut. And I had a psychedelic tie on. My hair was down way below my shoulders, and so was my beard. And now I go into the Gucci building, and the way it was right out of a Cheech and Chong movie.
Yeah.
And I go up to the office, and I see all these gold and platinum records to shit I didn't listen to, which was the Partridge Family and David Cassidy.
That's right.
And this woman, Val, came out and spun on her heels, and I followed her back into the office, and she goes, do I know what a messenger is? And I kind of went, huh? To make a long story short, I would be delivering and picking up tapes from all the studios.
Master tapes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Dave Thoner, who was an assistant engineer at Dick Charles, who then went on to produce and engineer Grammy-winning records also. Dave Thoner then got a job at the record plant, at the tape duplication room at Record Plant in New York.
Yeah.
He got promoted into assistant engineering, and they said to him, do you know somebody that would want to come into tape dupe? And he called me up. I went into for an interview, and it still freaked me out because I'm sitting in the reception area, and I'm sitting next to a guy with long white hair, with a bottle of Jack, knowing what he looked like from record covers, and there I am sitting for the first time in my life next to Johnny Winter, and he goes, you want some? And I'm like, no, I have an interview. And we just talked and back and forth. And Greg Calby, who still does all my mastering for me from Sterling, we talked, and Greg Calby said something magical to me before I went to my interview. And he said, if your head gets too fat to walk in the door, stay home.
Yeah.
And I never let that thing, that's why I don't talk about the Grammys. I don't talk about my gold records, because I never let my ego get inflated.
Yeah, ahead of it.
But then we come to interview time with Roy Cicala, who owned the record plant. And Roy said something incredible to me. And he goes, Howie, do you know how to, what did he say? Do you know how to align a tape machine? And I looked at him and I went, no. And he went, you're hired. And they taught me their way.
Ah,
Perfect.
Long before these schools,
Yes.
and long before they taught me the record plant way. And the part of the record plant way was cleanliness, sharp pencils, clean erasers so you don't smudge the take sheets.
yeah.
All of those things that go into making a record without making a sound.
Yeah.
And I was taught that way, and that's how I was brought up. And I still go into studios and I go, this looks like shit. I wouldn't want to work in here. And Cashman and West, when we were working with Jim Croce, Terry Cashman said to me, you know what I love about working with you? And I was like, what? He goes, you can eat off the floor.
Yeah.
And that to me was a higher compliment than any of the records that I've done.
No kidding.
Because I want the room to feel and look like no one's ever been in it. So when you come in, it's your room.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's that school that I was brought up in.
That's definitely the old school.
That's the right school.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the right school. Yeah. Well, Bern can testify. You can look across this very large building we're in right now and tell you we kind of run our ship a little bit like that too. It's pretty spotless in this thing, and anything that isn't that way represents chaos to me and you know, disorganization and of course inefficiency. So we just can't run in those it just doesn't work for us, and so I fully get that and appreciate it. I wish it was more of a standard fare as it related to some of the younger heads in the game, and that they understood how critically important that was, that you know, to come to the thing right, to come to it with your whole setup in place.
I mean, when we look at this world of Pro Tools or whatever, let's go backwards again and let's look how important the understanding of what a tape library consisted of.
Yeah.
You know, going in, there's hundreds of quarter-inch boxes, half-inch boxes, 2-inch boxes, and you better know where your project is.
That's right. That's absolutely right. No, that is a real thing.
You really could lose the file folder.
Oh, no. You
could really lose it.
You could really lose it.
And, you know, literally is what we're talking about. Like the actual proper usage of the word literally.
No search engine to help you find it.
Right.
Well, I mentioned that you were recently out with Michael Bolton. I know you did, Roberta Flack did 3 albums with her. You know, incredible singers. You tend to surround yourself with. It seems to me you made a conscious choice to pick out very talented people to surround yourself with. What is the criteria that you use to pick a project or a job, my brother?
That's a very cool question, because I look at it inversely, and I didn't pick them; they picked me.
Oh.
And it's lucky, of course, I search for work. I'm constantly making contact with people. But just like yesterday, a gentleman from San Francisco got in touch with me and said, I want to talk to you about mixing my next big band record, because I did a friend of his big band record. So luckily, through my career, people have sought me out for who I am, for what I can then do for them.
Yes.
And I got very lucky that way, that I didn't just have to search for here and search for there and go, let me grab this and I got picky because they got picky.
Got it.
And they would then say, Howie, would you want to do our project, whether it be record or the road? And that's the way my whole life has been. I've never really had to pick and choose, and they'd pick me and I'd go, yeah, sure. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm not available, kind of thing. So I got real lucky. The criteria is music in general. I love it all, whether it be a C flat or a B. Those notes are all the same, whether they're coming from a screaming amplifier or from a fiddle. Whatever it is, I will still do what I said earlier, mix it like a record, because I want to. That's why I don't do too many festivals, because those are throw and go kind of dates.
Yeah, they really are.
I want to really climb into something and make it right. And
Put
If
your
it's a
stamp on it.
festival, I do demand, sound check time because I want it right. I just don't want to throw faders on top of faders. And someone had said to me many years ago, your faders are always moving. How come you just don't leave them alone? And I go, well, that's why they call it mixing.
Yeah. Good
Because the
answer.
people on stage are never leaving their instruments alone.
Yeah,
Right,
there.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said,
Exactly.
both of you. Well said, both. Howie, I've literally, I haven't even scratched the surface of my intended questions. I literally
No,
have
so go hit me.
15 left. Well, we're right up at 8 o'clock, and I spoke to you about the analytics, but I wanted to ask you one more question. And
Of course.
let me ask you this, right? I'm going to kind of get you on the hook here.
Great.
You think we could do a part 2 with this one of these nights?
Yes.
Because
You see now when we go, here's a connection.
yeah.
I was just about ready to say we have to do this more.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, because I really sincerely mean that. There's some careers, and I've had this with the Brad Maddoxes and the Robert Scoville, and
Okay.
of course you were easily in that category.
Thank you.
You simply cannot. I can't get into all the things that I'm interested in knowing and the questions that I have in an hour. You just can't do it.
Can't do it.
Physically impossible with a 40+ year career. It's simply impossible. So I would,
Yeah, and you know what we should do? What we originally spoke about, as long as timing works out, outside of doing the Zoomy thing again, maybe we can plan on doing it there. So we are face to face, feeling each other, and we'll keep. You know what? Who says it has to be done in 2 times? If we want to do this 4 times,
That's right.
Guess what?
Yeah.
We're doing it for us, and we're doing it for the listeners.
You're
And the
absolutely
more we can give them, the more they can give back to us.
Yeah.
I love that, Howie. I'm gonna hold you to it. I don't think I have to,
Great.
but I would
Great.
very much like the idea of having you right here in this seat next to me, us breaking
Great.
bread together in the shop over in the conference room.
Great.
Doing that whole process. It feels so much.
I'm going to
more.
be a little bit, not necessarily go dark, but I'm scared shitless because
What's going on?
next week I go into open heart surgery.
Oh goodness, Howie, what's going on?
And so, yeah, they found a whole bunch of stuff they don't like. And so on the 1st of June, that's why I'm not doing the Michael Bolton dates in June. They're going in and they're talking about quintuple bypass surgery.
Oh
And
goodness.
so I'm going to be in the hospital for a bunch of days, and then I'll be on my back, they said, for 5 weeks. But I'll tell you this, I'm going to come out of this shit strong because you guys and me are going to continue this.
I like that very much. I will tell you this, Howie, and I mean this from my heart, my brother. Just had 2 friends. One had a double bypass and another that had quadruple bypass. And
Wow.
it was a little hard in the beginning, but they came through
Right.
out the other end, and they have more energy. They feel more
Far out.
alive, better color. There's just surprisingly well.
Great,
I
great,
think
great,
we've never been in a more advanced time for advanced medical procedures like that.
Absolutely.
And you have a heart of a lion, my brother. You will
Thank
be
you.
back.
Thank
I
you.
want you here. I really admire you. I appreciate and respect you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experiences
Thank you.
with us.
From as much planning as we've done to try to get to tonight.
Yes, sir.
With all the schedule changes and shit.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you go either. So we're going to continue.
I love it. I love it. This is a wonderful, it's a win for all of us. I really love it.
All right,
You have
cool,
my
you
best
got it.
wishes, my love.
Thank you.
You're going to do well. This is going to go well. If there's anything that the crew from Beyond the Backstage Pass, the crew from Sound Image can do for you, anything, please know, just reach out. And we'll be
I
there.
I will shout at you, send you some texts, and let you know how I'm doing. And like I said, the connection now with the 3 of us and through Dave and we will continue. It's as simple as that.
Thank you, my friend. You be well. Much
Thank
love,
you.
much respect.
All right, much love to you guys too.
All right, pal. Thank you for doing this. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Awesome, right? So good, so good. Yeah, mind blowing. And I really could see doing a part 3 and a part 4 with this young man. I literally scratched the surface, and even my questions that I wrote I had to be very limited. But the history is so rich and deep, and he's touched on so many wonderful bands and done so many wonderful things. It's just wonderful.
I mean, the stories of the studio work and the things that's for me. That's where the rubber meets the road, man.
Priceless, absolutely priceless.
Like that's the meat of the industry right there.
Yeah.
I just get so jazzed. I get move up in my chair. You know, my thing, it all started back when I learned the band 10cc, how they did that song, and they had like 8 feet of tape loop going out of the studio and coming back so they could do all those harmony things, playing the faders.
Yeah.
And that's when I first started going, oh my God, they're doing all this physical stuff to make this happen. And that's right on point right there.
No, I would say that's a great parallel. Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more.
That's the stuff everybody needs to hear all the time.
I think, like Howie said, there was a time when you made those sounds.
Yes.
There was a physical approach that took place. There was a physical interaction. There was a back and forth. There was a trick. There was
a trick.
Yeah. And so priceless. We're going to do this again next week. I don't even remember who we have on. We have some.
It's your excuse.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a little flying high from that interview. It was such a treat to have Howie on and to get into his brain. It's why I do this. It really is why I do this, is to capture these things. I'm concerned that the young folks coming up in the industry don't have the intellectual curiosity of where this all came from, where this started, and I'm trying to provide that, fill in those blanks, and to have a moment with somebody like Howie to share his extraordinary experience with
his
this.
Surgery's going to go fine. He's going to be fine.
He's going to be back,
and then he's going to get another gig with the Pope.
That would be awesome.
That's the way these things.
And then to bless him again, and then more Grammys. And
here's your Grammys. Here's your Grammys. Go home.
Of course. Thank you for being here tonight, Bern. It's such a treat. I love you if you're sitting in. Yeah. We're hoping to have Kyle, our other co-host, back sooner than later. I think he's about to go out on a tour for us with Brian Wilson, the extraordinary talent of the Beach Boys. He's doing a thing with him. He just got off Usher, so we'll see him back in probably a month or two. Until then, we will keep doing this every Thursday night with extraordinary and talented people. We appreciate you very much. I want to send a shout out to the good people over at Loving Hands for Stage Hands. This is John Del Rio, staging and professional. Bob Powers, Metallica's rigger. My brother, all around general badass sound guy. They keep this page alive because sometimes some folks in our business need to reach out to places to get a kind thought or a positive, a little inspirational thing, and they try to do that over there. So check them out on Facebook, Loving Hands for Stage Hands, a poorly named group that does a really good thing, and highly respect them. So thank you guys for your support. We do this every week at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can find us at Facebook, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitch, Spotify. Push the like button. It helps with us get the algorithm to push us into your feed. And until next week, behave, be kind, and be good. We'll talk to you then. See you. Good night.